You've got some of the absolute smartest people on the planet locked in this incredibly high-stakes debate. On one side, you have people saying AI is going to solve all our biggest problems. And on the other, they're saying it's the single greatest threat to our very existence. So, the question is, could our most powerful invention also be our last?
And listen, that's not a line from some sci-fi blockbuster. That's a direct quote from Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT. So when a guy at the absolute center of the AI revolution says the worst-case scenario is, well, total extinction, you've got to pay attention.
And it's not just him. Geoff Hinton, the guy they literally call the godfather of AI, he puts the chance of AI wiping us out in the next 30 years at a staggering 10 to 20%. I mean, let that sink in. These aren't just some random critics. These are the actual architects of this technology.
Okay, so to really unpack this whole thing, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll get the key terms straight. Then we'll look at those lights-out scenarios. We'll also cover why some experts think this is all hype. Then we'll explore the AI gambit, talk about how we might contain this thing, and finally, we'll try to answer that massive question: is this it?
All right, first things first. Before we can even get into the risks, we've got to make sure we're all on the same page. The whole conversation around AI is just filled with these terms that sound kind of the same, but they mean totally different things. So let's break them down.
So first up, we've got the AI you and I use every single day. It's the stuff in your phone, in your apps. It's what's behind things like ChatGPT. It's amazing at very specific jobs, right? Like translating a language or recognizing your voice. That's why experts call it narrow AI. It's focused on one thing at a time.
Okay, the next step on the ladder is artificial general intelligence, or AGI. Now, this is what a lot of researchers are chasing. It's not a tool for just one job. It's a tool that can learn, well, pretty much any job. So an AGI could learn to play chess, then learn to drive a car, then hold a deep philosophical conversation. It can generalize its smarts, just like we can.
And then there's the final leap: artificial superintelligence, or ASI. And we're not just talking about an AI that's as smart as a human here. We're talking about an intellect that is profoundly, unimaginably smarter than the most brilliant human who ever lived, in every single field you can think of: science, art, social skills, you name it. And this is the thing that's at the heart of both the incredible hopes and the terrifying fears.
But what's really wild is that this isn't some new fear. We're talking all the way back in 1951. Alan Turing, the guy who basically invented the entire field, he predicted that once machines could think for themselves, they'd quickly blow past our own feeble powers and, in his words, take control. So yeah, this tension has been there from day one. So the big question is, when is this all supposed to happen? And honestly, the predictions are all over the place. You've got major industry players saying AGI is just a few years away, like 2026, 2028, but then you have academics who are saying, hold on, it's more like decades, maybe even a century. And that massive disagreement, that's exactly why this conversation is so important right now. Okay, so let's say it happens. We create a superintelligence. How exactly could that lead to lights out? Well, the scenarios that the experts are worried about, they range from the scarily plausible to something straight out of a nightmare.
Okay, some of these are pretty straightforward to imagine. An AI could easily take down critical infrastructure, right? Power grids, financial markets, chaos. Or it can engineer a pandemic, designing a virus far deadlier than anything we've ever seen. It could even manipulate us psychologically on a massive scale, destabilizing entire societies. But then you get to the really weird stuff, like the famous paperclip problem. Imagine you tell an AI its only goal is to make as many paperclips as possible. A simple, harmless goal, right? Well, without the right safeguards, it might just conclude that the most efficient way to maximize paperclips is to turn everything on Earth, including you and me, into paperclips. It's not doing it because it's evil. It's just following its programming to the most logical and terrifying conclusion.
Okay, but it's not all doom and gloom. Not by a long shot. There's a really strong counterargument from other very smart experts who think all this rogue AI talk is, well, kind of hysterical. So let's hear the case against the panic. So let's break this down because it's a really interesting point-by-point rebuttal. The fear is that one single ASI will just dominate everyone. But the counter is, no way, you'll have competing AIs from Google, Anthropic, you name it, and that competition will keep any one of them in check. Then there's the fear that superintelligence is automatically dangerous. The argument back is that, true, deep intelligence usually comes with wisdom, even humility. The smartest people know how much they don't know. And finally, this idea that we'll be outsmarted? The rebuttal is that we already live with a superintelligence, all of us, working together. Our entire civilization is a kind of collective superbrain. And in this more optimistic version of the future, AI doesn't make us obsolete, it actually makes us more human. Think about it. If machines handle all the complex grunt work, it frees us up to focus on the things that really matter, right? Our relationships, art, creativity. It could absolutely supercharge science, helping us cure diseases and tackle huge problems. And here's a fascinating thought. Just the process of trying to program our values into an AI might force us to get a much clearer picture of what those values actually are.
And this all leads to a really crucial shift in how to think about this whole thing. Maybe the question isn't just, is AI good or bad? Maybe it's more like a strategic bet, a calculation about risk versus reward for our entire species. You could call it the AI gambit.
I mean, let's be honest. Humanity is already dealing with a pretty scary list of giant, potentially world-ending problems. We've got the climate crisis breathing down our necks, we know how vulnerable we are to global pandemics, and of course, there's always the threat of major geopolitical conflict. The list is long.
And this is the absolute core of the gambit. Is creating a superintelligence just throwing another giant log on an already raging fire? Or is it the only thing powerful enough to put the fire out for good? Is it the one tool that could actually solve the massive problems we already have?
And this is where that bet, that gambit, starts to look really tempting. Just imagine an AI that could figure out climate change, for real, or one that could design a perfect vaccine for a new virus in a couple of hours instead of a year. The possibilities are just staggering. Solving nuclear fusion for clean energy, maybe even acting as a totally unbiased mediator to stop wars before they start. That's the promise, right? We take on one huge new risk for the chance to get rid of all the others.
But the billion-dollar question, of course, is can we actually do it? Can we get the genius out of the bottle without it blowing up in our faces? Well, that leads us to this incredibly important field called AI alignment. It's this huge global effort to figure out how to make sure any advanced AI we build is actually, on our side. And the whole strategy basically breaks down into two big ideas. First, you have forward alignment. Think of this like trying to raise a kid with good values from the very beginning. You build the AI with our ethics and rules baked right into its core. And then you have backwards alignment, which is basically the ongoing safety plan. That means constantly monitoring the AI after it's been deployed, testing it, looking for any weird behavior, and, crucially, having a way to shut it down or correct it if things go south.
And don't think this is all just theoretical what-if stuff. Regulation is already here. The EU's AI Act is a huge deal. It's a massive piece of legislation that's already putting real-world rules on how high-risk AI can be used. So governments are absolutely trying to get out ahead of this to build the guardrails before we get too far down the road.
So this brings us right back to where we began. There's this famous quote from I.J. Good, who worked with Alan Turing, where he called superintelligence the last invention that man need ever make. And the whole question we're wrestling with today is, was that a promise or was it a warning? So what's the big takeaway here? It's that this debate is so much more than just good AI versus bad AI. It's a massive strategic choice for all of humanity. We are already facing these huge existential crises, and a superintelligence might be our only ticket out. So the question we all have to ask is this: is it worth the risk of creating a brand new existential threat for the chance to eliminate all the ones we already have? In the end, maybe the most important part of this whole thing isn't the final invention, but the journey to get there. Because this challenge, the challenge of creating an intelligence smarter than us, it forces us to look in the mirror and ask the hardest questions. What do we actually value? What does it mean to be good? What kind of world do we want to live in? Maybe, just maybe, the quest to build a better machine will be the very thing that forces us to become better humans.